affect you and what's your connection with PCA, that type of thing.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Well, thanks
So whenever
everyone
you're ready,
for joining.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Thank you everyone for joining us today for this Positive Coaching Alliance Double Goal Coach Workshop. My name is Nick Cipkus. I have been with Positive Coaching Alliance for almost 3 years now as the partnership manager. Growing up, I grew up here in Northeast Ohio. I played all sports growing up, but really my main focus was on football and baseball. I played locally at Lake Catholic High School. I was a 3-year starter, played defensive line. My senior year, I was first team All-State. My goal absolutely was to play Division I football, and I was recruited. Eventually went on and played Division II football. Tore my ACL as a freshman, came back and played 2 more years before I ended up kind of retiring and started to really focus on the educational portion of college. Since then, I was in strength and conditioning, so I've trained athletes at the absolute highest levels, and I've really seen through the course of my life the good and the bad with sports. And really my passion, sports has had a huge influence on me ever since I was a young kid. But really in high school, when my dad passed away during the football season, football really provided the structure and the organization that I needed to help me get through those tough times. So as we go through this workshop today, I just want you to think about the impact that you can have on the kids that you're coaching 5, 10, 15 years down the road, not just in the immediate future. Because once we do that, I think that you really look at the way you're doing things a lot differently. And so that would be my introduction.
That's great.
And then now I'll go into the PCA's coaching model.
Yep.
So the second principle that we're going to be going over is what we call the Elm Tree of Mastery, and this is really the portion in the phase where we're really helping athletes improve and helping them become better. If we could see the next slide.
Yep. And if you click on the little box at the bottom, you can see the slides bigger if you don't see
them
right now.
Perfect. So I was actually going to, before if you could pause the video.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, has anyone, the next video is by a psychologist at Stanford named Carol Dweck. Has anyone heard of Carol Dweck in the audience? No. And then, what do you know about her? Okay. Yeah, she wrote the book Mindset. Now, Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindset, and she's come up with the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is an athlete or individual or person who believes that their circumstances are static, they don't have control over their future, and that whatever their current circumstances, that's just what it is. They have no ability to get out of that. Versus somebody in a growth mindset who believes that they can improve, get better, if they focus on things they can control, and that their talent and ability is limitless. Obviously, as coaches, we know which ones we want. We want a group and a team full of athletes with a growth mindset. So we'll watch this video by Carol, her praising effort over talent. I want you to think of 1 or 2 things that really stick out to you.
Okay, so we can watch the video. Go ahead.
Yeah, so after watching that video, what's one thing that stood out to you? And then I would ask the people, and they would obviously, kind of respond.
Yep.
And
well, we can answer. Blake and I can answer for you. Yeah, so I would say what stuck out for me was that when she said most coaches think it's obvious that we value practice and effort, and I was just thinking of my own team, and I never really tell them that I value effort and practice. I just assume that they know I do. So I think that just stuck out for me, that I need to be more intentional about that.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I'm right with you on that one. I think, and we'll get into this later in the workshop, of really effort, and what does that mean? Because when you say effort, the first thing that comes, well, running through the line, but there's a lot of different ways to really focus on that. So I definitely agree with you on that one. How about you, Blake? What stood out to you in that video?
I actually, I need to watch that video. I know, I remember it's been a while since I've watched it, so I don't want to just throw something out there.
No, that's fine. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's we'll just say walked into the workshop late. But so after watching that and after hearing some of your guys' answer, the ultimate question is, how do you get athletes to believe that they can get better? What are your thoughts on that? I don't want to have you guys keep asking. But
no, that's what we do. We want to make it realistic. I've done this a million times, and I play a lot of audiences. So go ahead. I think that I really encourage them. I encourage the athletes all over the place, everything they do. And I think just the encouragement when they try a skill or when they try something and they just have me like cheering for them, I really think that they can get better.
Okay.
And I think it's really important that you just show your commitment to them and the team. And I think a lot of that has to do with making sure you show up and really have a good idea of how you want the practice to be run, what your expectations are on game day, and also just coming in with a lot of energy. And I think that the players are going to feed off of that and know that if you're committed, then they're willing to commit to you.
Absolutely. Agree 100% with that. And here at PCA, there's 3 different ways through the Tree of Mastery that we really help athletes get better. And one of them is we tell them and make sure that you consistently tell them that you value effort more than talent. It's so important to not only say it but also model it. Another thing is become a noticer. Really throughout the course of the season or practice, remember things that you focused on or places and points of emphasis. And when you see somebody doing that, make sure that you notice that. Make a little note on a piece of paper or write it right then and there. Discuss that with them in what we call a truthful, specific praise. And then another one is attribute success to effort. When an athlete or when a team has success, make sure that you point back to steps that really help them get there. Because all the time, 100% of the time, it's attributed to the success that they've had is because of the effort. So really those 3 points are so important to really have this mindset of what we referred to right before Carol Dweck with the growth mindset. Obviously, I've said it a couple of times with truthful, specific praise, but if somebody could volunteer and read that quote real quick for me.
That was a great play. You've really been working hard in practice, and it shows.
So that's an example right there of truthful, specific praise. I want you to take a step back 6 months to the last sport that you coached and think of one time that you said good job or way to go, and think of how you might have said it differently that might have been truthful, specific praise, that actual point of effort versus just that generic good job. So take 30 seconds in your own mind, and then we'll come back to the group and have a couple people volunteer and give their answers. So I think that, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. It might be difficult. I don't know if you guys want to take a shot at it.
I just did it yesterday. I was watching my daughter play lacrosse, and she really hustled and picked up the ground ball the first time. She beat this other bigger girl with a ground ball, and I was like, oh, Grace, good job. And then I was like, what am I doing? And then the second time I saw her do it again, I was like, way to hustle to the ground ball, honey. And she was like, just laughing, knows what I do. But it's even knowing what I do, it's hard not to just say, good job.
Yeah, so we all find ourselves doing it, and I think that once we're able to almost plan and to really identify areas in past experiences, to really make sure that we do have that truthful, specific praise, because it means so much more to an athlete versus just that the generic good job, way to go. I've mentioned it a couple times, but the second principle is what we call at Positive Coaching Alliance is the Tree of Mastery. E stands for effort, L is for learning, M is for mistakes are okay or they are part of the game. Really, how do you bounce back from them? The Tree of Mastery, we have a scoreboard definition and a mastery definition. And the scoreboard definition, the first part of that is what we call results. Statistical outcomes, winning and losing, really on the scoreboard, either win or you lose, and that's the bottom line. The second one is comparison to others. And I always use this example, and it makes me laugh thinking back when I was younger, but comparison to others. Remember when you're in first and second grade and you have field day and everyone lines up on the line to find the fastest person. You say, how do you mark, get set, go? And the kids are running and they're just looking at each other, looking to see who's the fastest and how fast their friend's running. And really, that's kind of the way I use it with my athletes is when you compare yourself to others. We do it all the time, whether it's on the other team, people, seniors, freshmen. But that's the scoreboard definition of comparison to others. And the third one is mistakes are not okay. And just real, why aren't mistakes okay? And obviously, exactly, it's because Mistakes, typically in the scoreboard definition, if you make them, you're going to lose. So those 3 points are really the scoreboard definition, where we want to take that mindset and replace it with what we call the mastery definition. And the mastery definition includes the first one, which is effort, which we've talked about. And we're going to, real quickly right after this, I really want to dive a little bit deeper into the effort part. The second one is learning. Are you learning from the things that you're doing on a consistent basis? And the third one is mistakes are okay. I want you to get into groups of 3, and I want you to come up effort. What do we mean by effort? What 2 or 3 items can you focus on throughout the course of practice where you break that down so your athletes understand what that means? Same thing for learning. Throughout the course of the year, how are you going to teach learning and encourage it with the players on your team? Mistakes are okay. Give me 2 ideas of how you're going to communicate. I don't want to take too much time. Just give me about a minute, but I want you guys to jot those down and then bring them back to the group. Now, I want to do this. This is just kind of off the cuff because I think that we talk about effort, but I think a lot of times it's a not necessarily it's a buzzword, but really I want coaches to understand what does effort entail, and have them really come up with those on their own. Whether it's being ready on time, having your shoes tied, making eye contact with the coaches, when you have your turn to do a drill in practice where you give 100%. So I'm hoping those are the types of answers that I get out of that for effort. From learning standpoint, explaining to athletes why they're doing the drills they're doing, outside of practice, going and studying somebody who plays their position or reading about an athlete to see how they've become, who they've become. Then really the mistakes are okay. I think it's great. I think is a perfect example is a coach using professional athletes on TV as examples of how many mistakes they make. Here in Cleveland, LeBron made so many mistakes in the NBA Finals at times, but he always bounced back from them and always was able. And really having those young kids pick that out in TV, and as a coach, having them look for those things. So that would really lead me into the next slide. Which is, I want you to watch a quick video again by Claude Julien, who's the head coach of the Boston Bruins, on releasing and reloading mistakes.
This is actually going to be switched to Curtis Matheson from the Mets talking about our mistake ritual. He's going to be talking about flush, just to let you know.
Oh, who's it going to be with?
Curtis Matheson from the Mets.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so then it'll be Curtis Grant.
In light of the shootings that happened recently, we don't think release and reload is the best analogy to use now, so we're switching this up.
Okay. So then,
so it's the same thing. He's talking about Curtis Anderson's talking about the flush, so it'd be the same sort of follow-up idea.
Okay. So obviously, as we've discussed, why do we want to have this climate? And why is it so important? Why do sports psychologists and head coaches at the highest levels want to shift from this scoreboard definition and an outcome base to a mastery climate? And the reason being is because it shows that anxiety goes down and your confidence goes up. Let's face it, if we have athletes whose anxiety goes down and their self-confidence goes up, they're going to be better performers on the field. And really, also, anybody have any other ideas why we want this? Mastery gives, okay, yeah, over there. Blake, what do do you have any ideas?
So on why mastery gives players a feeling of control?
Yeah, or what does it do for the athletes?
So as far as, what do you mean? Repeat the question again.
So mastery gives players a feeling of control, and once they feel control, what does that allow athletes to do?
I think it allows them to perform at a higher level. If they feel in control, they're not as nervous about the situation, and they don't get distracted by feelings that come with being nervous.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So through the research and through years of of Positive Coaching Alliance and what we've seen is that when mastery gives players a feeling of control, and when they have this, they're going to work harder for you, and they're going to stick to it longer. So that statistic we gave you earlier in the workshop of 70% of kids quit playing sports by the age of 13, we hope to really minimize that percentage, and through mastery, we have hope in the ability to do that. So we're going to go over a quick scenario here. Your team tends to play tentatively and lets the opponent drive the action. How many coaches have experienced this in the room? Wow, almost all of you.
Yep.
So I want you to the pairs that you were in before, I want you to pair up with somebody else, and I want you to go over how you would deal with this situation. Take about 30 seconds, each of you, to come up with an idea. Come back to the group, and then we'll go over it together and kind of break that down. So, Kelly, how would you approach this if you had a team, a youth sports team, and your team tends to play tentatively and lets the opponent drive the action? First off,
we've had this happen a lot because we had a new team. Oh, did you? I think I'm delayed now. So we had a newer, younger group this year, and our team was being beat on the scoreboard by a lot for a lot of the games. So my team was just intimidated because the team were stronger, faster, and were just better skill-wise. So they were definitely tentative and afraid. And one of the things that we did on our team was focus every single day and even at halftime of what did they do better than they did the game before, or what did they work on yesterday at practice that we saw somebody do something simple like switching hands in lacrosse with their non-dominant hand, and we would pay attention to how many saw people do that, and just the things like that they could just focus on their own game and their improvement, because there was no way they were going to win on the scoreboard.
Awesome. And I know from my experience with coaching and from playing, is when you go out and I was tentative or I've had teams, I've really understood that I was really somebody who feared mistakes or who I was very critical of mistakes. So they go out playing tentative because they don't want to make mistakes. So as a part of this scenario, if you turn to page 23, it discusses help players recover quickly with a mistake ritual, and also on page 27. I want you guys to pair up in groups of 3. We're going to read these real quickly in the groups. I know there's only 2 toolkits that we're going to discuss right now, 2 on the mistake ritual on page 23 and reward effort, especially unsuccessful effort, on page 27. I want one of you each to read one of the tools, and then I want the third person in that group to come up with a mistake ritual that they would use with their team this season and a specific area in a scenario in which they would reward effort, especially unsuccessful effort. So we're going to take about 2 to 3 minutes for you guys to do that, and hopefully we come up with some good ideas, and maybe we can even adopt a mistake ritual for the whole league of little league coaches that we have in the room. So that would be my big thing is from the takeaway and the mistake ritual, what I did with like athletes is to come up kind of like with a universal one for each team or specific league, or to empower each coach to go back and to really have one. Especially the athletes, they like it because it's kind of cool for each team or their school to have one. So
yeah,
bringing them back to the group and then having them discuss that would be kind of the way I would kind of end the Elm toolkit or the Elm tree. So
okay. Would you have each group share all 3?
I would probably, depending on the amount of time that we had, depending on how long it went other ones, I would probably have, and obviously depending on the number of coaches, but my goal would be to have each one do at least one. So that way, whether it was an actual rewarding unsuccessful effort example or a mistake ritual from their group.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. No, I love that idea. And there's this same type of framework in each of the principles. So maybe a way to maybe we could mix up, so you do this time with the book with 3 people, and the next time have them share it a different way. So still working with the tools, but it's not the same way every time. That would be something I would suggest too.
I was thinking of that. Is coming up with a couple of different ways to kind of split people up and to go in the book and read those things. That would be my takeaway from myself, is coming up with those. And I think obviously it's pretty simple just by going into the groups that we have through Google that have the different examples and things that other trainers have been able to do. So.
Sure. So, like, what do you think? What do you think about what we think?
So, Kelly, did you ask me a question?
Yeah. What did you like about what Nick did?
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's cutting in and out, so I couldn't tell.
I know. I don't know why.
I mean, I really liked Nick's way of asking a lot of questions and keeping everyone involved in the workshop. Even at times when the slide didn't in a question, just to keep everyone engaged with the conversation.
Great. Yeah, I think you did a nice job with that too. If you had a wish, if you had one thing you'd like to see Nick do a little differently, what would it be? Or a suggestion for him?
Well, I think this is always a great opportunity. This is just in general of the presentation material, but just using this as an opportunity to get up and stand up like you were actually in a workshop, and getting comfortable with hand movements and ways in which to keep the energy up in the room.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, and actually piggybacking on that, the one feedback part that I put was to change your energy level, Nick. I think I said it last time, like smile more, like you did when you were talking about field day. You brought that in and you were like smiling a little bit. But even changing the pace of your voice and the energy level and the volume, sometimes you're louder, sometimes you're quieter, sometimes you're speaking fast, sometimes you're speaking slow. Because, I mean, any of us, and I say this all the time, any of us can keep an audience's attention for about a half an hour, just based on the information, the material, that it's new and it's interesting. But after an hour and a half, if we don't vary it up with changes in our energy level and our voice quality, we're gonna lose some people. So it's just something from a public speaking point of view that's really something that's a little tip and a trick, but it can really help. Nick, I thought you did a lot of really good things. I really liked your introduction. I thought it was strong. I like the way that to introduce Elm Tree, you gave a good explanation of growth mindset and fixed mindset, but it wasn't long and drawn out. I thought you really did a nice job at making that really, really sharp. I liked the question of, how many of you in the I forget what you said, last week or last month, said good job or way to go. How could you have said that differently? I think nobody's ever asked that question to me before. I thought that was a really good question. And how you said, let's be proactive about it. We know good job is going to come out of our mouth. Let's figure out how we can be proactive about it. My one question, when you got into the chart, the scoreboard definition versus the mastery definition, what's it a definition of?
As in the scoreboard definition?
Yeah.
That's the definition of winning and losing.
There you go. Right? That's the part that you missed. So you said we're going to talk about mastery, we're going to talk about the scoreboard definition versus the mastery definition, but you didn't tell us the definition of what. So it's the scoreboard definition of success or winning versus the mastery definition of success and winning. So just make sure that a lot of people do that. You're not the first one that's done that says, oh, it's a scoreboard definition, says results, comparison with others, but scoreboard definition of what? We're talking about how do you define winning? How do you define success on your team? Is it defined only by the score, or is it defined by actually mastery? So just wanted to bring that up. I like the way you broke us up sometimes in pairs, sometimes in groups of 3. I thought it was great.
I mean, if I had my own personal critique, is it would coming up with different, varying that up a little bit so it wasn't the same each time. That would be obviously my and actually I thought I was going at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock tonight for some reason, so I actually had planned like an hour to plan so when you told me noon, I was like, oh no, that it was at 12:30. So those are things that I would like to obviously change and to vary up a little bit.
That's okay. And you can also, and the next thing I was going to say too, I think this would get tighter too. you did a great job at really being creative on how to get people together and talking. I would suggest, and even if you want to watch this back, when you put people in groups of 2 or 3 for the Elm Tree of Mastery, I liked your idea. Like, think of things that are effort, think of things that are learning. But when you give people multiple sets of directions in a group, usually they miss it. And this is just from experience. Like, I usually say give everyone one task to do, because what I'll find is if I give them 2 and like, okay, I want you to do this first and then this and then this, they get in their groups and they all look at you and go, now what did she want us to do? I don't even remember. So just be real specific. Give them one question to talk about. Stop it. Okay, next thing in your group, so I want you to talk about learning. Okay, now tell me, where are there opportunities to learn in your sport? And even when you talked about effort, you know, I think that's a really good discussion question. You can bring that into the term effort goals. And it's not, because that's not something we really go through in the workshop, but that's something that you could bring up if you're having them talk about effort. What we're really having you talk about here is effort goals that you're setting for your team. Not based on skill, not based on talent, but based on the effort. And, you know, what somebody actually in this course pulled up, I don't know, they saw it on YouTube or something, Facebook, that had like the 10 things, I think Brad Stevens printed out, the 10 things that athletes can do that have nothing to do with talent or skill. And it was the things that you said, getting to practice on time, having a good attitude, cheering on your teammates. Like, all these things are all effort goals. So I thought that was good. Just make it a little bit simpler for the audience.
Can you email me those notes you made, if it's possible, or send me a picture of them?
As I said, this is recorded too, so you can always go back and watch. Yep.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that I said, I thought you did a nice job. I almost wrote it down and then I stopped. When you ask the audience a question, don't forget to give them a lot of wait time. Now, I know this was different because it was on a hangout, but I always say whenever you ask a question, sometimes it takes the audience a minute to like digest the question. Then they have to think about the question. So sometimes we as trainers get anxious to say, oh, well, let me tell you what I mean. And you did that a couple times. Like, just don't be afraid to wait a couple seconds, because they have to think of the question, then they have to think of their answer, then they have to get up enough nerve to raise their hand. So I always say let the audience answer first, and then I bring in my experience if it fits. Sometimes the audience has given such great answers, I don't even add my own story. But anytime you can let the audience answer a question and give it a little bit of time, just let them wait for a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought you did a nice job, though. I was really good job, Nick. I really do. I think you have a strong presence when you're in front of a room based on your experience and just your experience with PCA. So I think the coaches and athletes will really be able to receive it very well. All right. Ready, Blake?
Yeah.
I have until 1:15, and then so if I get off, that's why. That's
okay.
Rude.
No worries. Well, Blake's only going to go for 10 minutes. This is just the practice. Blake, what did you want to do?
I'm going to do honoring the game.
Cool. Do you want me to bring it up again, or do you have it there?
Well, I'm going to be standing up because
okay.
I feel like I have to do that after I told
fine.
Nick to.
Yeah, you do. We have to see your arm gestures too.
Right. Yeah. So if you can pull it up for me, I'm hoping that I'll be able to see it from where I'm standing.
Yeah. Well, as I said, if you click on the box at the bottom, you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see it on the bigger screen. Let me see. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna be starting. I guess what is that? Slide 49, I think.
Is that where I am right now? I don't have the numbers of the slides. Right there where it says honoring the game. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, you guys can see me okay?
Yeah, you can't see me, but we can see you. So
right.
Go for
it. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you all for having me out here this afternoon to do the Double Goal Coach workshop with you all. A little background on Positive Coaching Alliance. Positive Coaching Alliance is a national nonprofit sports organization. It was founded in 1998 out of the Stanford Business School. Since 1998, we have expanded into 15 chapters across the country. Here in Houston, we've been here since 2007, so had nearly a decade to make a big impact on youth sports throughout the greater Houston area. Before we get into the workshop, a little bit about myself. Once again, Blake Wilson. I'm originally from the Dallas area. I grew up playing all different types of sports. When I was able to to fit it all into my schedule. When I got to high school, I selected soccer as the sport I was going to focus on, just because of the demand with playing club soccer and high school soccer. From there, I went on to play at Drury University. It's a small Division II school in Springfield, Missouri. And then after college, made my way back to the Dallas area, where I coached youth soccer for a couple of years before making it down here to Houston with Positive Coaching Alliance. And growing up playing sports, my parents and my coaches, they would always talk to me about the intangibles and the values of playing youth sports and what you can learn in terms of life lessons, which I don't really think I got a full grasp of that until after college, when I started coaching. And from there, I realized that youth sports is a tremendous platform for teaching life lessons and values to youth athletes. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today, is what it means. At Positive Coaching Alliance, we refer to coaches as double goal coaches. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, as far as what it means to be a double goal coach. And a double goal coach is a coach that strives to win, and a coach that strives to teach life lessons as well. And now,
are you ready?
I'll go into honoring the game. Which, okay. Kelly, I have a question. Are we showing that video?
No, we're not. We're actually switching that one out too. So yeah, you can just skip over that one.
I was down here last week, and he was saying that we weren't going to use that anymore.
Yeah, no, it's caused a lot of issues with the family of the catcher that threw the elbows, and the media is all over it, and it's just not. It wouldn't be in our best interest to show that, because it really. I mean, it's kind of obvious who she plays for. So yeah. Apparently down in Texas, it's not going well for that poor girl. So.
Yeah, I heard she was getting death threats, and it was getting pretty nasty.
Yeah, I mean, like, everything from revoking scholarships to, like, really, it's bad. So, yeah. Wow. So we're skipping that. Although it is a really good video to show this principle. Yeah. We're trying to find something else.
Right. So the third principle of Positive Coaching Alliance is honoring the game. Now, can anyone tell me what the big difference is between youth sports and professional sports? I guess
money.
Money, exactly. Money. Is Nick off?
I don't. He's on mute. I don't know if he's there.
Okay. Money. You're absolutely right. So professional sports, it's all about entertainment. It's about profit. It really is about winning, and there's that win at all cost mentality. What about youth sports? What should we be focusing on with youth sports?
Teaching kids the game. Oh, there you go. Nick said winning.
I'm back. I heard you. Sorry, I was on. Winning. You got to teach the kids to win, because our society nowadays is just everyone's a winner, and turn the scoreboard off.
So you think that just winning is the only thing we need to be teaching?
Not only thing, but I think that at the youth level, I think that some people, too many of the leagues around here have become just about everyone's just getting a participation trophy.
Sure, and absolutely, and we're not here to say that winning is not important. We think, once again, as a double goal coach, we want you to strive to win just as much as you strive to teach life lessons. But like Kelly said, it's very important that we're teaching the life lessons as well. And as a youth coach, it's very important that we separate the two of professional sports and youth sports. We cannot fall into the trap of thinking that there needs to be this win-at-all-cost mentality. And so with honoring the game, my parents used to always tell me, and I'm sure some of your parents used to tell you, that whenever you leave a room or leave somewhere, make sure that it's cleaner or it's nicer than the way it was whenever you entered into it. And at Positive Coaching Alliance, we think that applies the same way to youth sports. Whenever you leave a sport, you want to make sure that you left it in a better place. So it's not just, as a coach, respecting yourself. It's not just about respecting your players, but it's also making sure that your players and your parents and everyone is honoring the entire game itself. And so we have an acronym within Positive Coaching Alliance, and it's called the ROOTS. Think about a tree. In order for a tree to grow and continue to grow, its roots have to be strong. Its roots have to be fed with water and nutrients in order for the whole tree itself to grow. And so, like I said, roots is an acronym for the R is for respecting the rules. There's even times when you might see coaches out there that are bending the rules, breaking the rules. It's important that your team knows that that's not acceptable and that you guys are always going to respect the rules of the game. And sometimes that means you might have to lose because of it. But if we're going to honor the game, it's important that we respect that. The next O, or the first O, is for opponents. As coaches, Nick, do you guys have a big rival?
Yeah, right next door. Right next door, the high school. That's our big rival, and we get big crowds for that. So yeah, we have a pretty good rivalry.
Okay, and whenever you're playing your opponents and you've got that big rival, what do you see within your players?
There's definitely an increased intensity. I see a little bit more focus during the week. Puts everyone on alert. So.
Yeah, and that's what we have to, as coaches, we have to remind our players that our opponents are a gift to us. First of all, without our opponents, there's no game to be played. Without a game to be played, I mean, if we're honest about it, then as coaches, we're out of the job. So it's also a bit of job security there as well. But our opponents are a gift, and you see that even though they are your rivals, and there's that, it does build up that passion and energy in you. You still have to go out there and respect them. So if a foul is called, even if it goes against your way, you're still there helping your opponents up. You're getting them back up into the game. The second O is for officials. Kelly, has there ever been an official that, as a coach, has irked you or gotten you upset about a call?
Yes, absolutely. There was an official this weekend that got me very upset because he was loud. He was a male lacrosse background official, and they pulled him in for the girls' game. So it was a safety issue. He wasn't calling calls. He was letting the girls be dangerous, and he was listening to the other coach. The other coach was feeding him a lot of advice, and he was listening. So it was tough.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit later as far as a scenario in which a call is going against you, or if you feel like an official is doing a poor job of managing the game. But I guess overall, in the long term of things, we have to realize that officials are human as well, and they're going to make mistakes. Sometimes there's going to be a call that's to your advantage. Sometimes there's going to be a call that's to your disadvantage. But we still have to make sure that we are respecting the officials and not letting them get into our head too much where it's taking us our team out of the game. The T within Roots is for teammates, and this is very important as a coach that you express to your players that in order for a team to succeed, you do have to get everyone to buy into the same system. You have to have everyone on the team respect each other, and that's why it's important that everyone respects their teammates. And as a coach, like I said, you really have to drive that and make sure that there aren't small groups and cliques that are being formed on the team, and that you're keeping everyone on the same page. And then lastly, the S within Roots is for self. A lot of this is not possible without self-respect and you yourself knowing what is right and what is wrong. So once again, going back to the rules, even though someone on the other team might be, or as far as your opponents is not respecting the rules, that doesn't give you the right to do the same thing. So as long as you can respect yourself, you're going to be able to respect the rules, the opponents, the officials, and the teammates. So now, like I said,
that was 10. Yep, I'm just going to stop you because it's just practice.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought you did a great job. What's your plan for after this part? Just curious. Scenario?
Yeah, I was going to go into the scenario and just go through that, and then use that as a time to let people break up into groups.
Yeah, good.
and then yeah, from there, I mean, is that when I would go into some of the toolkits?
Yep. So after the scenario, yeah, I'm going through it now. So it's the scenario, and then the tools are the next slide. So everybody gets a chance to talk about the scenario. What would they do? And then you bring it back to, and a lot of people bring up these examples, which is great when you have an audience of coaches and they share, and then you can say, oh yeah, what you brought up was something we call self-control routine, or you've really used a self-control routine, or you've used modeling and teaching or narrated modeling. That's where we call it that. So bring it back to the tools, talk about parent issues, because that's a tool that is brought up there too. So that can be a discussion in and of itself of the parent end of it. And you can, and I always have them turn to page 40, I think it's 49, whatever it is on there, and let them see all the resources that we do have for parents. So, and then you get into the whole idea of this is then just the closing of the workshop is just the culture piece. This isn't necessarily part of honoring the game, but it goes right along with it. And then the Julie Foudy video, and then it just goes through, the end of the workshop is just the takeaways and what tools that they liked the best out of each principal. They can go through and share. And then this one, what's the one thing coaches can do to be more effective? That's kind of the summary of the whole workshop.
Yeah.
And then so I thought you did great. I mean, for 10 minutes, you got through a lot. And it was the first time you've done it, Blake?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel?
Felt good. I mean, I can tell definitely more practice is going to be better. There were times when I felt like I was scrambling a little bit or didn't have my thoughts practiced out enough.
Yeah, I thought you seemed good. I mean, I could tell it was the first time doing it. And sometimes, people say like, why do we, what people in this course have said, why do we do a practice session and then a final session? And I'm like, you'd be so surprised how things are so smooth in your head. But as soon as you get up to say them, you get caught up on like, wait, how do I phrase that? What am I going to say? So yeah. I thought you did a really nice job. I think your demeanor is very relaxed and you're really easy to listen to, which is great. But I think you have enough of good examples and, asking questions of us and bringing in your own examples as well. I think it's really good. The one thing I would recommend for Roots is that just keep in mind that it's the end of the workshop. So everybody's a little bit tired and the energy level in the audience is a little bit lower. So that's where I think you have to up your energy level a little bit because you're going to lose them. And this is really important principle. But after sitting there for an hour, hour and a half, the audience is like ready to go. Sure. So whatever you can do to make it as interactive as possible right off the bat is really helpful. So, having them bring up their own examples, like, explain Roots like you just did, and then say, okay, where do you have trouble? Where's the problem with this? Where do you have trouble the most? Which one? Get into a group of which, if you have trouble with the rules, stand over here, opponents stand over here, officials stand over here, whatever you want to do, or where does your team have trouble? Or think of a way that you teach your team to respect officials. Is this something you teach, or do you just yell at them when they don't respect officials? Do you actually, things like that are good discussion starters for this principle. And that's one I always do too. I always say, how do you teach your team to respect officials? And a lot of people say, well, I don't. I just yell at them when they don't respect officials. So we talk about, again, being proactive, setting up situations where, be on a player, pretend that you're a disrespecting opponent and they have to play through it. Do they do shooting drills when it's quiet, or do they do shooting drills when everybody's ragging on them and screaming at them? Things like that can help just to make it a little bit more interesting in terms of, how to keep it engaging for the audience.
Yeah, you're saying, I guess, as you go through the Roots acronym, just play out some scenarios or questions within each letter?
You can. I mean, I've seen it done two different ways. I've seen people do it where they go through each letter and they spread it out that way with some different scenarios and questions, or you just go through the 5 really quick, because it's pretty obvious, like ROOTS, when you put the words up, we're talking about respect. We're talking about 5 areas of the game to respect. It goes beyond sportsmanship, because we're not talking about what not to do. We're talking about raising the bar, and that you have expectations for your players to respect each of these 5 areas. So then after you've gone through them real quick, then you can say, all right, let's talk about which ones for you are the biggest challenge. Or let's talk about which one do you think your team does the best with? You can flip it on the other side too. Which one does your team have pretty good handle on? Yeah. You're proud to say, my team is really respectful of opponents. And, and I always bring up the example, and this is just, my kids are in summer swimming right now, and the coach is like, she says it at every single meet. Before you get out of the pool, you turn and shake hands with the person on either side of you. And it's really cute. Like even these little 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, like they're at the end of the pool and some of them are screaming like, I have to shake your hand. You know, they're yelling, but they know like that's what they're taught, to respect opponents right off the bat. And it's just something that I always bring up as a great example of this coach taking the time to teach even the itty bitty little 4-year-old swimmers. You stay in the pool until everybody finishes. You reach over and you shake hands with your opponent before you get out of the pool. And she screamed at players too, like swimmers, like, get back in the pool, get back in the pool, shake hands. And I'm like, the other teams think she's crazy, but I mean, my daughter's 16 and she's been doing it since she was 5. And she's like, it's something that we do. You always do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, just things like that to kind of break it up a little bit. But Blake, I think you did great. I think you're on your way to doing a great job.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And because, you know, that's something Nick and I were talking about too, is I guess now, like, I'm shifting this mindset from doing like a board meeting versus doing an interactive workshop.
Yeah.
I know that's where I have a lot to improve upon, is getting out of that sales role and into the workshop role.
Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, you're not the first one. I mean, all the PMs that have gone through this, that's been my comment. Like, it's not a sales pitch. And it's hard because that's what you guys are trained to do. And you know the content inside and out. It's how do you bring the content out of the audience to make it real for them?
Yeah.
Because the sales, especially with honoring the game, if you sales pitch honoring the game, you're going to lose them after like 5 minutes.
Sure.
So I think it's a good role. I think that's one of the reasons that Ripper wants you guys to do it, because he wants you guys to be able to do it from both angles and see it from both sides.
Right. And I think too, it will help our sales side as well, because there needs to be that, I guess that personal impact at the sales at the board meetings as well.
And how much better would it be at a board meeting to say, think of the most influential coach you've ever had, you know, to a board, instead of being a lecture. If you make your board meetings more like question and answer and really pulling examples out of them, that'll make them go, wow, you know what? You're right. This is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Sean out in the Bay Area, he did a really good job. Whenever we did the mock presentations at NYSA.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you could tell he did a great job of leading off the mock board meeting in that style of thinking about the most impactful coaches and getting you to draw back to being a kid. So. Yeah.
And that's what was funny too. Even when I was asked to go up to New York, when they launched the New York chapter, and I was asked to you know, do a demo for the New York board. And I said, well, is this the board meeting? And they said, yeah, but we want it to be a workshop demo. We don't want it to just be a speech. So they said, you know, run it like a little mini 10-minute workshop. And I had them up out of their seats and moving around and talking. And you know, Jim Thompson's like, I like this model. Most of our board meetings are not this much fun. So I think it's good. Good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, let me know when you want to do the final, because the official schedule is kind of done on Wednesday. But, you know, I'm around and I'm flexible. So let me know. Give me some times that work for you, and we'll let you do the final.
Okay. If I can do it next week, because I'll be out of town starting Wednesday, and
that's
I get back. I'll be back after the 4th. So.
Yep. That's fine. Just let me know.
Okay. Great.
All right. Thanks, Blake.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Bye.